Good afternoon. I realized where's Sean, who Sean was getting me about my bell ringing, but what I realized is when I do it too enthusiastically, it is unkind to our guest of honor, our speaker. Because for the last, I don't know how many weeks, when I just crank on the bell under Sean's direction, they jump. This is probably bad. So,
I've heard of lame excuses before, but that one takes the cake.
Warren can back me up on this. A delicate ringing, that's what we need. Welcome everyone to the February 10th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I am President Catherine Staub, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you all here with us today. No one signed up to share a moment of inspiration, so I'm going to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance and four-way test. Please sign up for future weeks. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the four-way test.
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
All right, now wave or fist bump or whatever you wish to do to greet your fellow Rotarians and our guests.
Warren, you keep digging. Good to see you. Well, that's where we should be, but too much work here. We're moving our company.
All right, we welcome three guests today. So please help us welcome Terrence, who's a guest of Christina Smith, and Andy and Austin, two guests of Paul Kerpis. And if you can look at the PowerPoint screen for their full names and businesses. Thank you for joining us today. Another reminder that the Rotary Club of Des Moines Hiking Fellowship has an outing scheduled for Saturday, March 5th at 11 a.m. to go hiking, snowshoeing, something, traversing the ground in some fashion, depending on the weather. We are going to meet at Captain Roy's and Birdland Marina at 11 o'clock. So also RSVP to Denise Essman, just so we know if you're planning to come, we will make sure to wait for you before we take off. You can rent snowshoes for $5 from Captain Roy's or bring your own or just hike with us. And again, who knows what the weather will bring, but we'll be out there and having a great time. Our Rotary Youth Exchange Committee is accepting applications for RILA. So this is a reminder from last week. That is the Rotary Summer Youth Leadership Symposium that will be held July 17th through 22nd at Grinnell College. The application deadline is April 30th. As I mentioned last week, we are all too old to participate. However, you may have children or grandchildren or other younger people that you mentor, and this is just an absolutely amazing experience. Check out further information in our bulletin. We have a testimonial from Matt's daughter Annika about just what an incredible life-changing experience this is. So please encourage the young people in your life to apply for that. Our club has allocated funds to send 4 youth attendees to RILA, and our priority will be given to those who are relatives of Rotary Club of Des Moines. And now, Kevin Kassier will introduce our program. Kevin?
Well, thank you. That was a roaring bit of applause there for me. Okay. Well, anyway, hello everybody, and I have the pleasure today of introducing our speaker, which is Warren Erickson, the president of Anderson Erickson Dairy. Some of you maybe remember his father, Jim, and fond memories of him. And I wanted to be sure to let you all know I've got it. I'm going to be pursuing him as a member, so don't be chasing after him after this event. I met Warren on the Goodwill board, and we partnered together on a 6-month project and got to know each other better. And I kind of gravitated to him not only because the guy knows how to make an outstanding cottage cheese, but he's got a quick wit, he's got a great business sense, and he really cared about what we were doing at Goodwill, so he really cares about the community. I recommended this program to the program committee with an understanding of what an incredible story he must have, because in my former company, we were tied into the dairy industry on the feed side, and was well aware of the upheaval over the last 5 to 10 years in the dairy industry, where there were dairy farmers who would choose to just dump the milk down the drain because it cost them more to process it and ship it than what they were getting for their milk. So it's an industry that has had significant change over the last 5 to 10 years, and he was right in the middle of it. And it wasn't just dairymen, of course there was other dairies like Anderson Erickson that struggled, but they continued to persevere, survive, and thrive. So I'm sure he'll have an interesting story. Warren's married, has been married to Laura many years, and I'm sure Laura is quite a saint to be married to Warren. He has 3 adult children, Joe, Ellen, and Peter. He's lived most of his life in the Des Moines area with an undergraduate degree and graduate degree from the University of Iowa in accounting. Another reason I've grown to like Warren. And then after a stint in public accounting in Kansas City, he came back to the family business and back to Des Moines. He's unapologetically pro-milk, of course, and again, went from when I got to know him, he was the CFO and now president of Anderson Erickson Dairy. So with that, please welcome Warren Erickson.
Well, thank you. I want to tell you, I've been involved in Anderson Erickson for my entire life. You could say that I kind of grew up in the public eye. I was in commercials and on calendars for most of my formative years in school, in grade school in particular. And I've got some pictures to prove it. So, and you can give me a hard time about this, but you got to understand that I didn't grow up in grade school and middle school with this being, displayed in the public forum. So I have very thick skin. It's fine. But here's a picture of young Warren pouring milk. Had way more hair, was a lot more cute than the whole thing. I did a stint of feeding a calf his breakfast there, and I want to tell you about my sporting experience. This is it, basically. This is the closest I came to any sports notoriety. But like I tell my kids, I'm sorry for the gene pool. It didn't work out very well. But we're into fine arts mostly. Probably my most famous endeavor is I had a little milk truck. And we did a commercial with the milk truck being the dairy delivery man. And what they didn't share in the commercial was, so this is a little gasoline powered vehicle. And I'm not very old there. And my first spin in this vehicle was on my driveway. We're just getting the hang of everything. I managed to run into my mother's car. So, not a great start, but it ended up okay. I'll show you this picture. I kind of aged out, right? I got a lot less Q, and but this is one of the older last calendars that I was on. I share it to show you 3 generations of Ericksons here. So I'm the whippersnapper there. Right next to me is my grandfather, Ivor, and behind us is my father, and his name is Jim. And those 2 other Ericksons in that picture, they were pivotal in making AE what it is today. AE, we're a 92-year-old, third generation family dairy. And you could say, in many ways, we're a survivor. We're one of the few family-owned dairies left in the nation, and our goal has always been to help customers enjoy the goodness and taste of dairy the AE way. Our dairy was founded in 1930, and just think about that, 1930, not the ideal time to start a business. But that's when my grandfather, Ivor, started the business. He survived the Depression, and at the time when he started, there were 150 other dairies in the Des Moines area. So it's just more of a transportation business, right? You took the milk from the farm into the city. Ivor and his business partner, who was a Swedish friend, and his name was William Anderson. So that's where you get the Anderson Ericsson, and they called him Andy for short. They worked to bring pure pasteurized milk to their family and friends and their neighbors. And my grandpa Ivor, he came from a pretty big family, so his first employees were mostly brothers and sisters. So they all worked together, and there were many other dairies, obviously 150 other in Des Moines, but Andy and Ivor, they didn't forget their job was to make sure the AE brand stood for quality, dependability, and friendliness. Eventually, in 1938, Andy Anderson sold his interest in the business, and he moved to Minnesota. And my father Jim took those humble beginnings and expanded AE's footprint to include most of Iowa, and he also established a distribution center in Kansas City. Today at AE, there's close to 400 employees. We make 250 products, including some of your favorites, I hope. You know, milk, juice, yogurts, cottage cheese, sour cream, dips, eggnog, more than that even. We have the one plant over on the east side. And the one thing I want you to know about AE Dairy is we're a little different. We're just a little different kind of dairy. All of AE's products, they're ours fresh, and they're made with specially selected ingredients. Kind of picky about what we put in your products. That includes European cocos, goes in your chocolate milk. So he's a big fan. Fresh cream, milk from Iowa farms. All AE products are continually evaluated on taste, performance, consistency, and overall appeal in our on-site lab. And we also have a taste test every week. So we have weekly taste tests with company leaders. And in that, we sample all of our products, and we'll bring in competitive and new products from our market and outside of our market too. We just want to evaluate how we're doing and how we can improve. And you never want to get too far away from the fact that our products are consumed, and you can run all the scientific tests you want, but if it doesn't taste good, it doesn't pass the test, right? So, we hope you taste our passion in everything that we make. And I did want to bring you up to speed on some of the stuff going on in the industry and in AE in particular. So this is fluid milk consumption per capita on a chart since 1975. Now, if you're running a business, this is not the chart that you want to see. It's a pretty dramatic decrease in consumption, and that's caused challenges for everybody in our industry. And I want to take a little bit of time to try to convince you to give milk another try, or maybe continue drinking milk. And I want to show you the nutritional benefits of milk. This one might be kind of hard to see if you're in the back, but I'll explain it to you. 1 glass of milk, so 8 ounces of milk, and it can be white milk or flavored milk. It's okay, it has the same nutritional breakdown. It's got as much potassium as a small banana. It has as much protein as an egg and a half. It's got as much calcium as 10 cups of uncooked spinach. It's got as much vitamin D as 3/4 ounces of, or 3/4 of an ounce of salmon. It's got as much vitamin A as 3/4 cups of broccoli, and it's got as much vitamin B12 as 4 ounces of cooked turkey. That's in one 8-ounce glass. It is a nutritional powerhouse. The fact that science and 4 decades of research support the health of dairy products is reassuring to all of us at AE, but we spend a lot of time helping our customers understand the benefits of dairy, and especially real milk. Milk drinkers have better quality diets. They reduce their risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and hypertension. Milk drinkers also weigh much less. On average, 17 pounds less than non-milk drinkers. I always say, imagine what I'd look like if I didn't drink milk. 17 pounds, not be good. If you ditch dairy, you have to go to multiple food sources, and you have to consume more sugar, more calories to get the same nutrients delivered in that glass of milk. Protein in milk is naturally occurring. It provides 9 essential amino acids, which your body cannot make on its own. Dairy protein provides the right amount of essential amino acids as compared to plant-based, which is incomplete. And our bodies, they need a steady stream of protein because you can only use a certain amount at a time. Dairy protein throughout the day provides energy and keeps you satisfied. The protein in milk helps repair and rebuild muscle. Here's a fact that you might not know. Milk hydrates better than water. The combination of the natural protein and electrolytes in milk make it better hydration than water. Magnesium is naturally occurring in milk, and it's a much talked about nutrient that Americans lack. Milk and dairy products are already one of the main sources of magnesium, particularly for children. They get about 25% of their total magnesium from milk, and it helps with the absorption of vitamin D. And the B vitamins in milk, that's a big deal. Milk's a good source of B12, it's a riboflavin, which is B2, pantothenic acid, which is a B5. It gives you all of that. And it also, B12 plays an important role in creating new red blood cells, and a deficiency could result in anemia. And then calcium gets a lot of headlines with milk, but it's naturally occurring in milk, and it's put to work in our bodies immediately. Synthetic calciums that are, that fortify things with, they've got some side effects. And calcium is a nutrient that's depleted through the day and must be replaced regularly. If your calcium's insufficient, your body gets that calcium from your bones. And that's why people with lower calcium, their bones, they suck some calcium out from your bones, and then they get brittle and they can break. And as we age, calcium's not absorbed as well, and we need more. And calcium consumption just works better throughout the day, because you can only absorb about 600 milligrams at a time. So if somebody says, "Well, take this pill, you get all your calcium," it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. And plant-based calcium, we talked about spinach. Do you want to have your 10 cups of uncooked spinach, or 1 cup of milk? And I'll take the milk. There's some other alternative milks out there. Maybe you've seen the meme. A friend of mine just sent it to me. God and angels. He's discussing things with angels, and God says, "What are they doing down there?" And the angel says, "Well, they're making milk from an almond." And God's like, "I gave them like 5 or 6 animals. You give them milk. What's wrong with those?" And the angel says, "They don't like that milk." And God's like, "I don't know. I got nothing. So I don't know." Why do people go with alternatives? I mean, some of that might be in your fridge. It can't be for nutritional reasons. I told you the nutrient benefits of milk. Alternative beverage, they can't come close. We made an almond milk. I know how you make it. It's a lot of water, a little bit of almond paste, and a lot of vitamin supplements, because there's really no nutritional benefit in almond milk per se as you make it. Some people look to the environmental reasons for dairy alternatives, and so this slide takes a little closer look at that. And let's get at it. Dairy's 2% of greenhouse gases in the United States, so it's a pretty low percentage. Milk transportation, particularly AE, it's all local. Our milk supply is from Iowa, and we're serving Iowa. We're not bringing things from around the country and shipping things in. Cows, they consume waste. If you talk to a dairy farmer, one that I talked to describes a cow as a great recycler. They eat a lot of things that aren't going to be consumed by anything else, and they use that energy to make milk. They're a great recycler. A milk's carbon footprint, it's decreasing because farmers are good at what they do, right? They're efficient. They've gotten more efficient. They're making more milk with less cows, using less land. And a couple of the farmers that we work with are also working hard on methane reduction systems. 2 farms that we work with are putting in methane digesters. So that takes the methane, it's the primary greenhouse gas that comes from cows, comes from cow waste, and it generates that converts that into natural gas. And then they're putting that right into the natural gas pipeline. So that's exciting things about milk and carbon footprint. Those dairies that have a methane digester are carbon negative. And so we can tout that. If you look at almond milk or oat milk or a lot of the other alternatives, they might use less water to get to the end product, because cows drink a lot of water to generate their milk. But what about energy? And they're using multiple ingredients across the United States. They're shipping those in. Most of those have 1 or 2 production sites for the whole country. So they're using a lot of energy in the production, and then they're shipping that all across the country. And there's some environmental things you got to wonder about almonds. Most of them are grown in California, fruits and nuts there. But that's drought-stricken parts of California too. So, is that the best use of that land? I don't know. But I wanted to get that on the table so you understand. I'm not embarrassed to talk about any of the carbon issues with dairy. It's an exciting conversation to have, and I think your local milk provider has a lot and adds a lot, brings a lot to the table there. COVID, it's been another challenge for us. Probably everybody in the room, we're faced with entire parts of our business that just were disrupted overnight. Consumption shifted to particular products and sizes and away from other products. The supply chain has been a complete wreck, and there's no other way to put it. Getting packaging materials has been difficult. It's kind of like playing whack-a-mole, where you don't know where the next mole's kind of going to come up, but one's coming up, and you just don't know. It's hard to prepare. But we are blessed to have our primary supply that we get is milk, and that all comes from Iowa. It's close, and it didn't miss a beat during the pandemic, so we're blessed with that. Also, we're blessed to be a part of many people's lives during the more restrictive part of COVID. The COVID experience had more people at home, more people cooking at home, using some of these products for their either their cooking or just their pleasure of enjoyment, and that was good. That was good for us. And another challenge, probably you guys all experience as workers, Drivers, we have a lot of distribution of our product. Drivers with a Class A commercial driver's license are especially hard to come by. And it's getting a little bit better though, I think. And we've also seen some people coming from some of the more restrictive places to Iowa. And we've gained a few employees that way, and those are encouraging signs. So, I just want to remind you that AE, we're your local dairy. There's really not another local dairy option available to you. We want to share life with you, be a part of your meals. There's good reasons you guys should be milk drinkers and include dairy as part of your diet. And one of the more compelling reasons is that it's good. I mean, I think we lose sight of some of that sometimes, where you want to include this or that in your diet, but they don't taste good. And dairy, I love it. It tastes good, and I don't want you to lose sight of that. And people want to enjoy things that are good, and they want to like what they eat. So I appreciate your time. I got plenty of time for answer any questions that you might have, and thank you. Yes, sir.
So, we're all friends here, and we aren't going to tell anybody else. The
Yeah.
dip, what's the secret? Because I can't not eat an entire container of it every single time I open it.
Oh, I love to hear that. Yeah. The question was, what's the secret with AE dip? And the secret is really fresh ingredients and being choosy about it. But we're blessed to have that Iowa milk supply, and we generate because a cow, she gives milk at about 3.5% butter fat, depending on the breed of the cow. And our average output in fluid milk is somewhere around 1.7%. So we generate excess cream. So we have a very fresh supply of cream that goes into that dip. So the fresh milk and the fresh cream and the pickiness of the ingredients, it makes a big difference. And I'll speak firsthand as a taste tester on a weekly basis. We bring in other dips, and sometimes it's kind of disappointing. And I'll tell you that about cottage cheese too. And I don't want to come off the wrong way, but cottage cheese, if you haven't had it lately, I understand why you haven't, because there's a lot of bad cottage cheese in the world. I've had it. Pick up some AE, and it might be a little bit different than what you're used to. It's pretty good. That's awesome. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. It was so good, and you're such a lovely family, and we're so glad to have that family in Des Moines, Iowa. I have to start out by saying, way to go, Warren.
Yeah, that was my tagline.
Way to go, Warren.
Yeah.
But we are milk drinkers and would drink nothing but AE. You talked about a little bit about the manure or the methane captures.
Mm-hmm.
There was a good story today on NPR, so if you are interested in that, it's fascinating. So just go to npr.org and find that story. It's really great to know that they're capturing something from waste and sending it all the way to California, so through the pipelines. My big question is, what happened to AE ice cream, and will you please bring it back?
So the question was, what happened to AE ice cream? And we did dabble in the ice cream business. And I'm an accountant. I'm a recovering accountant, really. And I will tell you, economies of scale are real, and they do affect your costs. And our economies of scale for ice cream just never reached the point where we could be super competitive. We do make, I'll give you a pro tip. We make ice cream mix, and I have one of those home ice cream makers, kind of a Cuisinart thing. We have a mix that's what's called Sarah Ann Home Ice Cream Mix. I just pour that right into the ice cream maker. No other ingredients necessary. It's a one-stop shop. I can even make this recipe. And you turn that thing on, 20 minutes later, you got some really good ice cream. So you can try that.
Thank you.
Where is that available?
I buy it at Hy-Vee.
Okay.
Not affiliated.
More than 50 years ago, while I was waiting tables, trying to finish a dissertation in Washington, D.C., a woman in need came in, and of course I asked her, can I offer any son's water? Yes, she said, scotch and milk. I stood there, I was stunned. And she could see the expression on my face. What was up for that, for people to drink scotch and milk?
The question was, scotch and milk, is it a drink? I cannot speak firsthand about scotch and milk, I'm sorry. But I could say milk goes with almost anything. Yes.
Lord, I would love, more than anything, to drink AE milk all day long. For some reason have become intolerant. Can you speak to this sort of epidemic of people who have to be dairy-free? And we really love to support AE milk.
Yeah, there are some people that are self-diagnosed dairy-free, which, you know, we don't really espouse to, and there's some people that have legitimate reasons. We have a lactose-free milk available in whole and 2%, so that's something that you could definitely take advantage of. It's all, usually lactose is the culprit in those situations, and what we find most of the time is if you enjoy dairy with a meal, you don't have as many issues. Yes?
Do you make any product for any other operation? For example, IV's milk? Do you make any of that for Fairways or anybody's?
Yeah, so the question is, do we make other people's milk? Now we're delving in trade secrets. No, we pitch most of our success on our name brand, and want to advance that. We do make some Hy-Vee and some Fairway milk in selected areas for them, because they're our number 1 and number 2 customers. And when they ask you to do something, you don't say no, right? Yes.
I notice when I buy your milk, which I do, and I also like chocolate milk, and that it has a longer sell-by than maybe some of the other brands. And that's one of the things that obviously taste, but attracts me to purchase it, even though it might be a little more expensive. So what is that reason? Is it that you bring it to the stores more on time?
Yeah, the question was, AE milk tends to have a longer sell-by. We're local, so we can get it there quicker, and we make those turns quicker. And I think regardless of the sell-by day, you are getting a fresher product when you're buying AE, because we're just-in-time inventory isn't a new thing in the dairy business. We've got a product that we have to move very quickly, and we do so. And we say ours fresh. It's not really a slogan. It's a reality. Because our farms are close, our milk gets to our facility within just a few hours of coming out of the cow, and most of that milk gets processed definitely within 24 hours and can get on a shelf within hours after that. So within 2 days, from cow to shelf is something that happens all the time. Yes?
What is your favorite product out of your entire product line? And then what is the most unique, rarest that maybe you've never heard of, but is something really special? Like eggnog comes out every season.
Yeah.
Every so often, but is there something even more rare that we don't know about that we should?
Oh, the secret, yeah, I don't know. The question is, what's my favorite product? I have 3 kids. It's like asking which is my favorite kid, right? I'm a fan of a lot of, I love 2% milk. You know, I'm boring, I'm an accountant, right? Cottage cheese is a favorite. A whole milk yogurt. If you haven't had a whole milk yogurt, it is so good. There's something about, you know, we used to be in this craze of eliminating fat on everything, because the government said fat was bad or whatever. And we've kind of reversed that, and man, it makes a difference in taste. So go try some whole milk. It says hidden gem. Sweet cream, because you know I'm an accountant, I'm boring. That's just more vanilla flavor. Almond. There is a. We're coming out with an orange, which is going to be fantastic. It's not in the market yet, but I would tell you that the hidden gem of our product line is whole milk yogurt. It's very good. It's a good way to start your day if you're into breakfast. So, yes.
The ultra pasteurized milk have a longer shelf life. Have you ever looked into producing those?
Yeah, the question is ultra pasteurized milk has a longer shelf life. It does. It takes more energy to make, and it tastes worse. Have we looked at it? Yeah, we have. But I think people legitimately appreciate a local product that's fresher. You can put 120 days, 90 days at least as a code date on a UHT, ultra high temp pasteurized product, but it's got a burned taste, and it definitely doesn't taste as fresh. We put 17 days, so it doesn't sit around as long, and you can see that difference. The main reason that people do ultra high temp is because they want to ship it farther, and it tends to kind of be caught up in the whole distribution channel a little bit longer, and maybe on the shelf a little bit longer. So it's just not quite as fresh. Yes, sir.
I've got two questions. One, when you're talking about calcium, it's good for bones and osteoporosis and whatnot. So would that stand to reason that people who drink a lot of milk are hard-headed? Question number two, actually referred to that slide that you showed with the consumption going down. In the industry, what do you see, not in the next year or two, but what do you see 5, 10, 15 years down the road?
So two-part question, are milk drinkers hard-headed because they have more calcium? Yes. Or in my case, yes. I don't want to speak for anybody else. But, and then what are we doing to reverse the trend of the negative slope fluid milk consumption? My sister, Miriam, who's the CEO of AE, she is on the milk PEP board. So that's a Got Milk people. Milk is life. And we've tried to do a lot of education about the benefits of milk, the goodness of milk. We try to get the word out about nutritional values. It's a little bit of an uphill battle, but we're working hard every day on the behalf of everybody who enjoys dairy and wants to make it part of their life, because it's important, and it's a very, I'd rather have that 8 ounces of milk than the egg and a half and the 10 cups of spinach, just me personally. Yes, sir.
Yeah, are you distributing in other states or have plans to expand or?
So the question is, do we distribute in other states? And we cover Iowa pretty well. There's some edges that we don't. We dabble in the edges around, but Kansas City's kind of been a growth area for us. So we do have a distribution point in Kansas City, and kind of if you drew a 50-mile radius around Kansas City Metro, we've got a nice distribution there. So, sir.
I was listening to WHO farm show yesterday, and they were interviewing somebody from the dairy industry that said that milk consumption in the last year per capita actually gone up. And I don't know if that was for the state of Iowa or nationally, but they seem to be somewhat surprised, or at least pleased about it.
So the question revolved around some statistics that milk consumption went up in the last year. And it gets a little muddled because dairy consumption is up, but it includes cheese and includes butter and some of the ingredients. And actually in 2020, COVID lockdown, fluid milk consumption went up a bit. So those are all good things for the industry, and we hope those kind of trend lines will continue.
You said you were the 3rd generation of
Yeah.
Anderson Erickson. Is the 4th generation involved?
So the question is, I'm the 3rd generation. Is the 4th generation involved? Not yet. So I have 3 kids. My oldest is 23. So he's finding his way he lives in Wisconsin, working for a healthcare software company. And my others aren't quite out of college yet. I have some nephews that may be interested. We'll see what happens. The typical trend, if you're not aware, the entrepreneur, 1st generation, starts the business. The 2nd generation usually builds it up, and the 3rd generation wrecks it. not, just trying to avoid that. Yes, sir.
Hey, I don't know if I need to confess to you or somebody else, but in my youth, I ended up with some milk crates in my home. I don't have them around anymore.
That's good.
Just maybe talk to that.
Yeah, let's talk about, the question was about milk crate theft. I have a funny story about that. When I was in college, so this was a long time ago too, I was paying my water bill in Iowa City, and it was in the municipal building, which is adjacent, I mean, the police were right there, right, in the same building. And she had a milk crate that she was using for a filing system, and I thought I politely asked for the milk crate back. And she said, well, if you want it, you have to get the police to get involved. And so I was dumb enough to do that. And, so I've learned to kind of relax. I'm not pro theft, and I don't want you to get that way. But there's a fine line that these milk crates are very handy, but we do lose a lot of them. And it's they're about $4.50, $5 a piece. They're great for milk distribution. Unfortunately, they're really great for moving in and out of college and some other things. But yeah, if you see those, just put them back on the back side of a Hy-Vee. We'll pick those up, and there won't be any questions asked. We won't do any DNA testing or anything. We just appreciate getting them back. Yes?
What's the average size of your dairy that you get?
They're big. Yes, we're pulling milk from just a few dairies, and the biggest of which is about 6,000 cows, which is it's a big business in itself, and up to a few thousand, a couple thousand. So they're really good at what they do. Two of them have PhDs in dairy science. They always say they don't eat until the cows eat. They don't sleep until the cows sleep. And if you really want to, if you haven't been to a dairy farm and you have the chance, jump at it, because it's a passion that you see through the dairy farmer's eyes. They're really good at what they do. It's a hard job. Those cows, they milk 2 or 3 times a day, depending on their systems, every day, 365. Not a lot of breaks, and so it is tough, and we don't want to see them struggle economically or anything. We want to be partners and want people to drink their fresh milk and enjoy that, so we can all succeed. Yeah.
If a dairy wants to do A&E, what are the standards that you impose or requirements for them to have a process by your firm?
Yeah, we test every load of milk that comes in before it gets pumped off. There's 3 tests that we run, make sure there's no antibiotics in the milk, because if she gets sick, they'll treat her, but they're supposed to keep her out of the milk stream. So we make sure that's not in there, make sure there's no added water, and we taste it. Or milk receivers taste every load, because you can't make a good tasting product from something that starts out bad. And then we do a scientific test on every load. So we've got standard plate counts and preliminary incubated counts and some of the more scientific things that we incent them to have very good and clean milk, and economically incent them. So we'll have kickers in there as far as if you meet these criteria, you get a little bit more money. So it's a win-win, because we want that good milk supply that we don't have to worry about, and they like a steady market for their milk too. So since the president's standing, it looks like my time is up.
May I just add one part to the history that needed the introduction of the speaker told?
Please do.
Ivor Erickson, his grandfather, was on the library board in my workaday world, and he was always very helpful in going to beat the battle of the budget. And
for a delightful presentation today. Obviously, you are in a room of AE fans, as it should be. We are donating a book in your honor to the library through our Rotary Rosie Reader Van, which is through the Des Moines Public Library Foundation. And all of you know, last year our Rotary Club Foundation donated $40,000 to purchase the van through our community grant program. Upcoming meetings. Please think about someone who might enjoy hearing from one of these speakers. Guests need to be registered by 9 a.m. on Wednesday, so if you do have somebody who would like to join us for an upcoming meeting, make sure you register them as well as yourself. But no meeting next week. We have our February Fling hosted by President-elect Matt Busick and his lovely wife Betsy. It is too late to RSVP for that. Those were due February 3rd, so if you ignored our pleas to register, I'm sorry, you're gonna miss out. However, we will see all of you, hopefully, on February 24th when we're here with Ted Kamachis, who is with the U.S. Marshal Southern District of Iowa. And then on March 3rd, Kevin Foley with the Des Moines International Airport. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for being part of Rotary Club of Des Moines. Thank you to our guests for joining us today. And thank you for all of you who have invited somebody to join us. We are adjourned.